What happened in Kaduna is another strong reminder that these terror gangs are not having it easy anymore. According to reports, a group of armed men tried to launch a midnight raid on a community, thinking they would take people by surprise. But what they met that night was the opposite. Security forces, together with some local vigilante defenders, were already on alert. By the time these attackers moved in, they ran straight into resistance. Gunshots echoed in the night. Villagers were on edge, but at the end of it all, several of the attackers were neutralized and others arrested. That is what people are calling a failed raid that turned into their deadly end. Now, the reason this gist is very important is because Kaduna has been a hot spot for years. People living in those areas, especially rural parts, are tired. They wake up every day not sure if they will sleep peacefully at night. And when you look at the way these gangs operate, they prefer to move late at night, strike fast, take people away, or loot homes, then disappear into the bushes. But this time around, their plan didn't work out. The people and the security agents proved stronger. This is why it's big news. And please, if you are watching right now, kindly like this video and subscribe, because we bring you these stories as they are happening, and your support helps us keep going. Now let's look at the bigger picture. This failed midnight raid is not an isolated case. Over the past months, we've been hearing about repeated clashes in Kaduna and other northwest states. Some gangs have been trying to expand their territory, while others are being chased down by military operations. Just earlier this year, one notorious bandit leader was taken down in Kaduna after clashes. These raids and counterattacks are shaping the future of security in the region. And it's not just about the numbers of people killed or captured. It's about the message it sends. That communities are not helpless, that security agencies can push back, and that criminals will eventually face justice. But let's also be real. Even though this particular gang was neutralized, the problem itself has not completely ended. Kaduna people will tell you that almost every week there's one story or another: kidnappings, road ambushes, attacks on farmers. And that is why everyone is demanding more permanent solutions. Neutralizing one gang is good, but making sure peace lasts is even more important. Because at the end of the day, it is the ordinary villagers who carry the burden. Imagine farmers who cannot go to their farms because of fear. Imagine school children who can't focus on learning because of threats of abduction. These are the realities people live with. And this is why I want to ask you again. Do you think government is doing enough? Or do you think communities themselves need to do more? Drop your opinion in the comments section. And don't forget again, like this video and subscribe, because we want to hear from you and keep this conversation alive. So, after that failed midnight raid in Kaduna, people have been talking, both in the local communities and across the country. Many are praising the security forces and vigilante groups for standing their ground, saying this is proof that if you prepare well and stay alert, these gangs can be defeated. Some even said it gave them fresh hope that the days of bandits moving freely are gradually coming to an end. But at the same time, others are asking very tough questions. Why is it always after a raid that we hear action was taken? Why not stop these criminals before they even set out from their hideouts? These questions show that people want more proactive measures, not just reactive responses. Now let me paint the picture of how these raids usually happen so you understand why this Kaduna story is different. Normally, these armed gangs move in groups, sometimes dozens of them, heavily armed with AK-47s, riding on motorcycles. They storm into villages, fire shots to scare people, then either loot property or abduct men, women, and even children for ransom. They usually choose midnight because it's when people are most vulnerable, sleeping and unprepared. But this time they didn't expect that security would already be positioned and waiting. The clash lasted hours, gunfire shaking the quiet night, but at the end, the defenders stood tall, and that is why we are calling this a deadly end for the attackers. Now let me remind you, Kaduna is not just any state, It is strategic. It connects the north to the central parts of Nigeria, and it has a mix of ethnic and religious communities. When insecurity rises there, it affects the whole nation. That's why every successful counter-operation there matters a lot. And it is also why we must continue talking about it here, so that attention stays on these issues and solutions can keep coming. By the way, if you're still with me, take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe. When you do that, you're supporting this kind of deep gist that brings the truth closer to the people. But beyond the fighting, let's talk about the human side. Villagers who survived that night raid will carry that fear for a long time. Even if the attackers were defeated, the trauma of hearing gunfire around your home, of wondering if your family will survive till morning, is not something that goes away overnight. Many families have already been displaced from their villages because of earlier raids, and some communities are like ghost towns now. So, while security forces are celebrating this success, there is still much to be done to rebuild confidence among the people. Without trust in safety, people won't return to their farms, they won't reopen their schools, and the cycle of fear continues. And here's where it gets tricky. Every time gangs suffer heavy losses, they often regroup. They move to another area, change their tactics, and sometimes come back even more violent. That is why experts say victory is not just about neutralizing attackers, but about cutting off their sources of weapons, their funding networks, and their hideouts in forests. Until those routes are destroyed, the problem will keep shifting from one place to another. Now, this is where I want to throw the question back to you, my audience. Do you think community vigilantes should be given more support, training, equipment, maybe even payment, so they can defend their villages better? Or should we leave all the fighting to the military and police alone? Your thoughts matter, so please comment below. And don't forget again, like this video and subscribe, because we need this community to grow, and your engagement helps the gist spread far. Anytime a major raid happens, you will always hear government officials come out to speak. They release statements condemning the attack, praising the bravery of the security forces, and promising to keep working until peace is restored. That is normal, and of course, people want to hear that government is active. But the truth is, many citizens don't just want words, they want a real change on the ground. They want to see soldiers patrolling their roads. They want to farm without fear. They want to send their children to school without thinking of kidnappers. Now, let's be honest. Politicians know that Kaduna is a key state. Every time elections are coming, promises are made about securing the region. But after the elections, many of these promises fade away and the cycle continues. That's why ordinary people sometimes feel abandoned. And this is also why these kinds of successful operations, like the one where the midnight raid failed, are used by government as proof that progress is being made. But Nigerians are asking, will progress last beyond headlines? Will it last beyond one successful operation? That's the real issue here. Another angle that people are talking about is how opposition parties use these incidents. If the ruling government says they have neutralized terrorists, opposition voices quickly ask, but why did the raid happen in the first place? Where was the intelligence? Where were the preventive measures? So you see, security in Nigeria is not just about guns and bullets. It is also about politics. It becomes a talking point, a scorecard, and sometimes even a weapon used to attack the credibility of whoever is in power. But let's bring it down again to the people on the ground, because that's what matters most. Imagine you are a farmer in southern Kaduna. Your life depends on your crops. You wake up at 5 a.m., you go to your farm, but you know that once the sun sets, your village may become a target. That is the daily reality the people live with. So, when a raid is stopped, yes, there is relief, but the fear is still fresh. Parents tell their children, don't walk too far, don't play late outside. Traders rush home early. Markets close before dark. This is what insecurity does. It changes the rhythm of life. And here is something very important to understand. Every successful counter-operation boosts morale. Villagers who hear that attackers were defeated feel some level of safety. They feel, yes, maybe we can sleep better tonight. That psychological effect is powerful because in battles like this, it's not only about firepower, it's also about belief. If people believe that security is working, they cooperate more, they share information, they report suspicious movements. But if they believe nothing will change, they keep quiet, they hide, and criminals thrive in silence. So my people, this Kaduna gist is not just about that one night. It is about the bigger picture of trust, politics, and community survival. And this is why I always remind you, please like this video and subscribe because we are breaking these stories down so everybody can understand.